All right.
Okay, great. All right. Well, good evening. I'm Eric Berkey. I'm again pinch hitting for Commissioner Daniel Weir. I'm a member of the Planning Commission. I will be chairing tonight's June 25th, 2025 Form-Based Code Advisory Working Group meeting. We are holding a virtual public meeting, which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia. Members of the Form-Based Code Advisory Working Group are participating virtually through electronic means. Just a few reminders about our virtual environment. Members of the public may attend this meeting electronically using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the Form-Based Code Advisory Working Group webpage, the county's events calendars, and an email notification that is sent to Advisory Working Group email subscribers. Also, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For working group members, if anyone loses internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you're called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For other virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. We'll talk about that in a moment. A reminder that the meeting chat in Microsoft Teams is active for two purposes. For advisory working group members who need technical assistance, but also for members of the public who'd like to add their names to the list for public comment, which we will take at the end of the meeting if there is any public comment. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who plan on providing public comment still will do so. Will need to do so at the end of the meeting because the chat is not part of the public record. All comments must be shared verbally so that they can be captured in the video recording for posterity for whoever wants to go watch them later. If you're on the advisory working group and you'd like to be recognized to speak on an item during the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise your virtual hand in Teams. We'll monitor those feeds. If you are an advisory working group member participating by phone today without the video option, please just announce your name and group that you're representing, and I will verbally check in throughout the meeting to make sure folks are recognized. We do a pretty good job with that, so that should be fine. If you're a member of the public here, not on the advisory working group, but you would like to provide feedback or comment, you'll be called upon to speak at the end of the meeting, and you'll be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on the agenda, whatever agenda item you're speaking on tonight. If you wish to speak, just put your name in the chat, and then our great staff member, Olivia, will just add you to the speakers list. And then lastly, as always, a friendly reminder, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting is being recorded, will be posted to the county's website, and then all information associated with tonight's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Virginia Freedom of Information Act requirements. Okay, so tonight we have the Barcroft Apartments Phase Development Use Permit application. I think that's our only agenda item, Olivia.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead with the staff presentation?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull that up. We also have Mr. Matuzik with us here this evening. I did just want to flag really quickly, many of you may know, but uh, Matt has accepted a position with the City of Falls Church as their new planning director. So this will be his last AWG meeting tonight. So just take it in. I know Matt served in this role for a long time and has been a champion for Columbia Pike. So I know we're all going to miss him greatly. But plenty of time at the end for final questions for Matt.
Don't worry, Matt. We'll get you then.
All right, give me just a moment to pull this up. Okay, so our one agenda item this evening is for the Barcroft Apartments Phase Development Use Permit application. I know you guys have heard a number of different items leading up to this over the past couple of months. I know back in April, we brought the proposed amendments to both the neighborhoods and commercial form-based codes to help enable this phase development use permit tool. And then back in May, we reviewed the proposed neighborhoods form-based code use permit for the first market rate construction project over at 4110 Columbia Pike. And then here tonight, we have our final item of the package of 3 items that'll go to the county board for consideration in July. So this is the phase development use permit application. And then upcoming, we'll have a meeting with the Planning Commission on all 3 of these items on July 7th. And then again, bring all 3 of the items to the county board in July. So to start with a little bit of background, as we always do, the Barcroft Apartments property that we're talking about tonight in context of the phase development use permit includes everything within the orange boundary that's on the screen, generally between Columbia Pike, South First Mason Drive, and South 4 Mile Run. This includes about 60 acres with about 52 garden apartment buildings with those 1,335 committed affordable units, as well as some commercial buildings on the east and west commercial or east and west nodes. So over the past 2 years, the county board has approved a total of 6 renovation use permits. A final renovation use permit will be considered by the county board this fall. The county board's also approved 1 new use permit for construction and will consider the second one for the 4110 Columbia Pike site this July. And overall on the site, about 70% of the 1,335 committed affordable units are going to be preserved in renovated units, and then the remaining CAFs are going to be provided within new construction. So the master financing development plan for the Barcroft Apartments property, again, was approved by the county board back in July of 2024. So in addition to the financing plan component and the affordability commitments the Gyre Lynch Real Estate Partners team made additional commitments to the site for the site redevelopment plan as well as a phasing plan. And some of these commitments included the revised conservation areas, the multimodal network, those locations of public parks and natural preserved areas. And these were all memorialized through amendments to the neighborhoods form-based code in February of this year. But there are some other commitments that were made under the Master Financing Development Plan, such as the tree canopy targets and the phasing plan, which are not codified in the Neighborhoods Form-Based Code. And we know those will need to be monitored separately, which brings us to the purpose of the meeting this evening. So to get us started, I'll just go ahead and provide some background on the purpose of the phase development use permit before we turn things over to the applicant to present the application that's proposed. So the Barcroft Apartments owner has filed a phase development use permit application, which is going to help monitor all of these commitments across almost 20 different use permits on the site. So the tool is going to help track and implement elements, again, which are not codified in the neighborhood's form-based code, but it also allows these use permits to share and collectively deliver on some of these commitments. So the 5 different categories that we're planning to track include the affordable housing commitments, accessible units, overall parking for the renovated areas, tree canopy targets, and the biophilic pathways. And then again, we'll also have a phasing plan that will help track some of the items like biophilic pathways, public parks, and all the street and streetscape improvements. So this phasing plan will indicate which improvements will be tied to different renovation and redevelopment areas, but it's not going to specify the sequencing or timing. And we'll see a little bit more of that in the applicant's presentation. So again, I know we covered this back when we looked at the proposed amendments, but the PDUP is going to also include condition language, some data tables and maps to track all of the various categories, a phasing plan, and some design guidelines for all of the biophilic pathways that are proposed. But unlike a phase development site plan, which you may be familiar with, the PDUP is not going to include those density and use allocations. All of these are already prescribed in the neighborhoods form-based code. And it's also not going to include, again, that traditional phasing plan with an order of phases to be delivered. It's just going to tie commitments to specific locations on the site. And then the neighborhoods form-based code also already includes architectural design guidelines, so these aren't necessary for a document like this either. So as part of this process, we have updated our administrative regulations, including all of the submission requirements for the PDUP. So you can see here all the requirements that have been outlined, and the applicant did submit an application consistent with these requirements. So with that, we'll turn it over to the applicant to get into the main, the main content, and then we'll be available for questions afterwards.
Thank you, Ms. Sontag. We have to bring up our presentation. Good evening, everybody. I'm Lauren Riley with Walsh Colucci, and we represent the applicant here at Giant Lynch Real Estate Partners. So it's, as always, good to see you all again, and especially tonight as we're talking about the phase development use permit tool. And thank you, Ms. Sontag, for giving all that background for how we got here. A lot of work has gone into getting us to this point, and I think we're excited as I think this is this kind of final puzzle piece in terms of memorializing these commitments that we made, starting with the master finance and development plan that was approved last year. And as mentioned, there's a couple key elements to this phase development use permit. It's going to be the affordable housing units, accessible units, the parking plan, biophilic pedestrian pathway, and then the tree canopy target. So I'll walk through those elements, how we're depicting them in our phase development use permit proposal. Here, as we're wont to do, we've reoriented our plan so that you can see Columbia Pike is on the left, 4 Mile Run Drive is to the south, South George Mason Drive is here to the north, and everything in red is the Barcroft site that is going to be subject to the phased development use permit. Just to start off, and how we're conceptualizing development across the site over time. As Ms. Sontag mentioned, there'll probably be 20 use permits by the time development's fully realized on this site. So how do we break it down into these bite-sized pieces that we can track going forward over the next number of years? So what you see here is our concept plan, which sets forth land bays and renovation phases. So the areas in white here, these are the renovation areas. This coincides with the green conservation area, buildings and units to remain. And these numbers are in order that these applications were filed and approved by the county board. So for example, our first renovation phase that was approved here is labeled as Reno 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. The land bays that are in gray, these are new construction land bays, and we're using the alphabet to delineate these land bays. So A, B, C, D through all the way through KLM here on the south. And what I'll note here is before we get into an example phasing plan, is that some land bays only have one phase of development. So for example, 4320 Columbia Pike here, which is letter E, land bay E on the plan. This consists of one phase of development, one building that you all reviewed a few months ago, and that was approved. And similar land bay A, this would be one phase of development with one approval. But then there are a few other land bays where there might be multiple phases of development. This BCD here, which goes from Columbia Pike down across 12th, the future 12th Road South, and here along South George Mason Drive. And then on the west node of the site, we have this GHI KLM land bay. And our team has been working with staff over the past few months to ensure that our phasing plans and the conditions ensure that the public improvements that are promised with the master finance and development plan and the form-based code are delivered with the new development. So here you can see this is an example of this is one of our phasing plan sheets, and we'll start here on the top left. So this is an example where you have one land bay with one phase of development. Land Bay A, this is the 4110 Columbia Pike site. That also includes the mini park, Park Space 1. So as a general concept, each phase of development is going to deliver the public improvements associated with its frontage. So this development will deliver Columbia Pike streetscape improvements, South George Mason Drive streetscape improvements, 12th Road. They'll deliver the future section of 12th Road South here, and it will deliver the mini park. Now, when you get into the land base with multiple phases, these next three images show you how we've captured what will happen with each phase, what will happen if one phase goes first before the other. So in the legend on your right, you can see the red hatching would be phase 1, blue is phase 2, and green is phase 3. So in the event that this green phase, we'll call this building B or development B goes first, it would deliver public improvements along its frontages on Columbia Pike, South George Mason Drive, and South Taylor Street. Then when you get into C or D, whichever one of these goes first, will deliver segments of 12th Road South that are hatched in accordance with the phase, right? So this C building here, if it went first, it would deliver 12th Road South across the street up to that curb there, as well as the intersection here and a portion of South Taylor Street. Vice versa, if building D went first, it would build this portion of 12th Road and the intersection. Building C will always build its frontage with along South Taylor Street. So I know you all may have more questions about that. Happy to spend a little more time on that at the end if you like. That's the general approach here with the phasing plan. Now getting into these 5 elements of the PDUP, how we're tracking compliance with and showing compliance with those commitments that we've made for affordable housing and accessible units. On this map, you can see we've got the land base and the renovation phases labeled. You know, renovations are in this yellow color here. And then we've open spaces are in green. And then we've divided up the market rate construction, which is has this purple color here, versus the new construction low-income housing tax credit buildings like 4320 Columbia Pike. There will be 3 new construction LIHTC buildings in total. We obviously know E is one of them that's been approved. We've identified this Land Bay J as the second one. It's too far out right now to know which of the buildings here in this GHI Land Bay will be one of the new construction LIHTC buildings. So we've striped this purple and salmon color to signal that 1/3 of this land bay will be new construction LIHTC building. Overall here and in the conditions, will show the commitment to the full 1,335 committed affordable units that will be provided both between the renovation phases and those 3 LIHTC new construction buildings that I mentioned. Will provide tracking mechanisms for updates to those charts as we move forward as development is built out across Barcroft. And then just to quickly touch on the accessible units, again, Gyra Lynch is committed to provide 2% of the renovation units as type A accessible units, and then 10% of the LIHTC new construction buildings will have type A units. To the extent that in some cases where a renovation area is not able to achieve 2%, it may draw upon some of that portion in the new construction LIHTC buildings. On to parking. This was a big topic of discussion during the Master Finance and Development Plan, which committed to provide um, parking consistent with what is available today. So new construction parking, any of these new buildings will have to comply with the neighborhood's form-based code, whether they're LIHTC buildings or market rate buildings. For the renovation areas, as I mentioned, in an effort to keep a ratio similar to what is out there currently, we've kind of divvied up a couple different areas of Barcroft parking. So in the Salmon here, these are all private parking lots within the renovation areas that will remain existing or will be, or where we're plan to construct new parking lots to provide some additional parking where we might be taking it away on a redevelopment site. Public parking areas in this teal color, these are adjacent on-street spaces along South 4 Mile Run and South George Mason Drive, as well as 16th Street South. And then this light blue color is on-street public Barcroft parking spaces. So parking along South Thomas Street and parking along the future 12th Road South and South Taylor Street. So in looking at the numbers, what is shown in our PDUP would be about 951 spaces that will be provided for a total of 969 renovation units at full build out. So at full build out, we expect to provide about 0.98 spaces per unit. And that includes the parking spaces that are colored in salmon and the light blue. And we here visually wanted to show for you the parking supply on these neighboring public streets in teal. There's about 378 spaces that are provided on these streets where folks can also park, though that number is not factored into this 0.98 ratio here. Moving on to the biophilic pathways. This PDUP drills down a little bit more into the different types of segments that you'll see within Barcroft and what those will entail. Generally, the biophilic pathways have 4 elements that characterize the pathway. It's made up of enhanced ground level plantings, so that's native shrubs and ground cover, decorative bollards or marker lighting, so that as you're walking through the path, you feel a sense of uniformity. It also helps with wayfinding, seating and benches to provide opportunities for rest, as well as wayfinding or interpretive signage. Here on this plan, you can see how we've delineated those 3 different types of the segment, biophilic pathway segments. The first one here in blue is the segment along the future 12th Road South. This segment is pretty straightforward, as the biophilic pathway elements are mostly incorporated within the street sections in the neighborhood's form-based code. The second type of segment that you'll see is the one along South Thomas Street. So this is where we'll be utilizing existing sidewalks and enhancing those conditions with ground level planting trees, those marker bollards and wayfinding signage. And then the third type are the pathways that are internal to the Barcroft site that are wholly within the renovation area. That's this magenta line here and here. And just to show you some precedent images about what we're thinking of when we talk about the enhanced plantings, native planting examples, bollards, site benches, and wayfinding. All of these will be incorporated with the final landscape plans associated with the use permits. So as each use permit moves forward, it will provide its portion of the biophilic pathway. We'll actually be going back to amend some of those existing renovation use permits to show how they are meeting these standards. And so at that time, you'll have an opportunity to review that and how it's coming together. And then lastly, the tree canopy goals. MFDP set forth goals for different types of areas on Barcroft. So proposed new development areas has a goal of 25% canopy coverage. For the public mini parks, it's 40%. For the what is in blue here, the neighborhood conservation areas, the renovation use permits, the coverage goal there is 50%. And then you have the preserved natural areas in purple, where your goal is 80%. You can see here this area in orange, that's the slope failure area where we've had to treat that a little bit separately, more uniquely. It has a goal of 0 because we've provided this meadow planting here. There's quite a limit about as to what you can plant in here due to the need to have a retaining wall here to hold back that slope. But we've, as you recall, during the MFDP, we added these other areas in purple to get back what we lost from the slope failure area. So this plan will capture those commitments, and we'll be tracking those canopy commitments with each final use permit. And we'll also be able to the extent that any of these renovation areas or preserve areas provide more than their target, we'll be able to apply that square footage toward a new development site to meet this overall tree canopy goal that we have for Barcroft. So with that, concludes our presentation for tonight. We have other members of our team here from Gyre Lynch, Vika, Parker Rodriguez, and KGD. So we're happy to answer any of the questions that you may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Well, we will just open it up for questions from the advisory working group members. So if you've got a question or comment, go ahead and raise your hand. And we'll go in the order. Folks, go ahead and do that. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Thank you. Can you go to slide 6, the parking? I was curious, since the text says that public on-street parking includes Columbia Pike, but there's no color shading along Columbia Pike. So I just wanted to confirm. I'm assuming with new construction, we've typically had at least some on-street parking created. So I was just curious why there's no color. Should be teal. Yeah, should be teal, I would think, along the Columbia Pike segment. So just wanted to get clarification on that.
Understood. Hey, Linda, thank you for that question. To provide a little bit of clarity, when we were putting together these colors, we were mostly focused on the renovation areas and how they were going to retain parking similar to a ratio that they have today. So I think why you see the colors on this teal color on George Mason, Wakefield, and South George Mason Drive, or because these are areas where that would be kind of supplementing other dedicated parking. But to your point, there will be some parking along Columbia Pike. To the extent that it's net new parking, we're able to count that toward the requirement for new development projects. So for instance, 4320 developed, I think, net 2 spaces with its project that you could use to count toward the required parking for the development. So it'll be available parking, but it might not be shown here. I know Mike Pinkowski's on. I can't recall why we left it off this plan. I think it might have been because
it's an oversight. I mean, that's a fair statement, and thank you for pointing that out. And we can certainly add that to our next session. Okay. Yeah, there's like Lauren said, we can
shade that in.
Yeah,
that would be great for when it goes to the county board. All I want to see is the best possible proposal that for the greatest amount of success, and for the county board and the planning commission as a whole to see an excellent proposal that covers every possible aspect. And it's just an A1 proposal. That's all I'm interested in seeing. Thank you.
Us too, Linda. Thank you for that note.
I'll put myself next. procedural question for you, Olivia. So I'm less familiar with the phase development use permits. So like you may have explained this, so just if you can walk me through this again. My understanding was that there was an extent to which those were administrative approvals, but then can you just again walk us through why this needs to go to the county board for approval?
So this phase development use permit is really going to function with its original approval as a use permit of the neighborhoods form-based code.
Right.
So it does require county board approval for this initial process. I think in some of the condition language, we are allowing updates, administrative updates to things like the tables, because every subsequent development project that comes in, all of those 20 use permits across the property will require their own individual use permit that will get reviewed and approved by the county board. It'll then require some kind of backfilling of information as part of the phase development use permit. So we'll be able to do most of that administratively. And then any other larger amendments or updates that are needed to the phase development use permit will then require additional review and approval by the county board.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. And I think a lot of this will be fairly straightforward. I mean, this is just a comment. It does seem like there's a lot here that requires county board action. I'm not sure much of it, if any, will be controversial. And obviously having them look through things ultimately is a good thing. And this is a very large project that doesn't really have a parallel anywhere else in the county. It just does seem like a lot of legwork for county board approval, but that's just a comment, really. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Who else has
I can
questions?
jump in real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead, Matt. Yeah,
Just to
yep.
address that.
Yeah.
It is very similarly structured to the phase development site plans you see in other parts of the county, particularly Pentagon City, Potomac Yard, where for a long range tracking mechanism, a lot of work goes into kind of the original application, and much less work is required as a result in any subsequent updates because the framework is established. The tables are there. There's a lot of blank cells. And the expectation is that those final site plans in those areas of the county come in. You're simply just making updates, but the path is set up for you. And I think here, both staff and the applicant are paying the price up front so that future amendments can be much easier on everybody's time and energy. And the focus, as you'll see, is really on the new applications for that final renovation that's still ahead of us, and then the new construction applications that will be on the edges.
That makes sense. I mean, it's sort of a philosophical question that doesn't really need to be answered because, again, this project sort of has no parallel in the county. But if we were doing like several of these, or there are others kind of coming down in the pipeline, like I would be kind of asking that question of like, does the county board kind of need to evaluate this? But there's not going to be another Barcroft apartments project coming, so we don't really need to answer that question. Maybe Fairfax or Falls Church can think about such questions. All right, that was all I had. Who else? Okay, we're going once. I'm not trying to cut people off, but I'm not seeing anybody's hands shoot up with questions or comments. I mean, I think this is personally think this is fairly uncontroversial. I think that's evidenced by the fact that I only had one question myself. So I will be personally happy to see this move forward to the Planning Commission, and then hopefully after that the county board. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, so that's quite expeditious. I don't think that in any way reflects upon disinterest in the project. I think that really reflects upon the level of detail and analysis that was conducted here. So really do appreciate your presentation, Lauren. And with that,
I'll take it.
Take Take a W wherever you can get it, is what I say in the day job. So much appreciated for you coming tonight. Olivia, do we have any public speakers who'd like to speak to this item?
I do not see any comments in the chat.
Okay. Well, if anybody is here that wants to make a public comment on this, you still have an opportunity to before we move on. Okay. Well,
right.
We'll consider that. Yeah, thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah.
So we will consider that agenda item closed. Really appreciate the presentation from the applicant, as well as our planning staff. And so I think we'll move on to any updates, and then obviously maybe a short conversation or presentation about Mr. Matusik. But I'll throw it back to you, Olivia.
All right, thank you. The only other update this evening was just a follow-up from our last meeting. The online engagement for the mini park at the 4110 Columbia Pike site concluded. Let's see, that was today or yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So the applicant has received all of the survey feedback and the comments, and they're working on reviewing those and addressing anything outstanding for that project. And that's all I have for this evening.
Okay.
Unless there are any questions.
Not about that. I mean, I live in Douglas Park. Folks were very interested, I think, in that proposal. And I had asked them to take the survey, and certainly friends in the neighborhood. So hopefully they did. And we'll see, we'll see what comes of that. We'll go ahead and entertain a question or comment. Andrew, you want to go ahead? You had raised your hand.
I think so. Although I believe actually John Snyder may be CPP's representative, so I always have to check with Olivia.
Well, we're gonna allow it. We're gonna allow it tonight.
That's good. And I apologize. I don't know why it's showing up as A, CS, and B, why my camera's not working, but I'm here. Just curious. Now, it's the applicant's. The feedback was provided to the applicant. I'm just curious, what's the interplay between the county and the applicant for this public park? I know there were some conversations early in the week about just some of the infrastructure pieces that are currently in the renderings, I guess, not renditions. And just wondering what the interplay is both between the feedback from the survey, the county's input, and then the ability of the applicant to kind of proceed as they both see fit and desire. So.
Yeah, we as staff haven't had a chance to see that information either. We just got it a couple hours ago. So we're reviewing all of that. I think from a staff perspective, again, we're looking for compliance with the neighborhood's form-based code, which is very specific for these mini parks about the distribution of planting and paving, the types of amenities for these spaces, and other improvements. So there are a number of existing utilities, both underground and above ground on this site, that the applicant, doesn't have any control over. So we'll be working with them on talking about the different screening that can be proposed for some of those elements. And then they've also done a lot of working around with where trees will be planted to avoid any of the existing easements and underground facilities that run through that park. So we'll continue conversations with them in the weeks to come. And Andrew, I can reach out to you and John so we can have a conversation about any comments or questions that you guys have as well.
I'd really appreciate that. I mean, obviously, I think I hope I speak for a lot of people here, is that this is just such a cool opportunity to increase green space on the Pike. It's a very important intersection, and it's not very often that something like this comes along. So just like we've had flexibility from other aspects of a very proscriptive form-based code, hopefully that whatever creativity that the community and the applicant can think of, there will be that same level of kind of creativity and consideration about how do we really maximize the opportunity here, because this is not just another form-based code project. This is really, as we've all talked about this project for the last 5 years or so, a once in a generation type opportunity. And it's not just the housing piece, it's not just the redevelopment piece, it's also the placemaking, greenscaping piece too. And I just don't want to either fall back on kind of the prescriptive nature of the form-based code, which can both be a blessing and a curse, and B, making sure that we are putting all of our creative minds together to say, how do we maximize opportunity while we have the chance to do it? So that's probably goes without saying for all of us. That's what we all want, but just to make sure that we're doing the things that we can at the front end to say, we did what we could when we could, instead of saying, why didn't we do more and when we couldn't?
Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, my favorite part of the evening, Olivia mentioned before that Matt will be leaving us here soon for a really great opportunity. So I'm glad you're able to step on here. And I'd like to say a few words. It's unfortunate that Daniel's not here tonight. He had another commitment. Hopefully, there'll be another opportunity in the near future. But I just want to say, I think on behalf of, this group, even though I'm kind of pinch hitting here, how deeply appreciative, Matt, I am for, everything that you've done for not just Columbia Pike, but Crystal City, Pentagon City, and just general, planning efforts. I've been on the planning commission for about 2 years, but did housing stuff, and I've been around for a while, and my experience has been that if there's kind of a big deal project going on in Arlington, at least over the last 10 or so years, Matt has pretty much been in the middle of it, or pretty involved in some form or fashion. And I think that's evidenced by not just the work on the Pike and really all the heavy lifting that Matt, you did, and obviously Olivia with Jair Lynch to really make, Barcroft a reality. But the Pentagon City sector plan as well was a massive, massive lift. And I think that you should be really proud of what, has been accomplished there. It's just an incredibly massive plan, and consequential one. And you've worked on a lot of other things, but those are two big things that kind of come to mind, for your tenure, as far as I've known you. And then Barcroft obviously is sort of the most consequential affordable housing project Arlington has ever done, at a project level, and probably will do for a long time. And it's just so in alignment with all of our goals, and all of the work that you've done to help make that a reality. It's just been so consequential for all the families who get to stay, and all the families who are going to be able to live along Columbia Pike and in Arlington. So you will be deeply missed. I know, especially among kind of the planning commissioner community, and I know those folks want to have their say. But I just really appreciate everything, and I'm sad to see you leave, but I'm thrilled that you have the opportunity to kind of grow in a new position, and especially a leadership position. Not surprising at all that you would be so desired by other employers, other jurisdictions nearby. And so really sad to see you leave, but I think that speaks to the level of talent that we're able to attract here in Arlington, and just really deeply appreciative. So thank you very much, and obviously congratulations to you for your opportunity. I will happily open the floor if other folks would like to say anything, but thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, just go ahead, John. I mean, focus and just go ahead.
Now I'll try it off mute. Matt, on behalf of the Columbia Pike Partnership and the neighborhoods, and really everyone along the Pike, a huge thank you for all your work through the years. So much of this is balancing different interests in the projects, as you know, and we have a very successful balance on the Pike, and so much of that is because of the work that you've done. And when we have difficult decisions to make about things. You've always been very clear about, what the rules are in the form-based code, which is hard to keep up on, and, how we go about dealing with those things. And it's been a pleasure, which is not always the case when you're in land use discussions. So it's been a pleasure, and we really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best. And glad it's Falls Church, because we share a border, and you can come see us sometime. So thank you very much, and all the best.
I really appreciate that. And I mean, to everybody on the call, applicant included, I do feel like a lot of the time I spent on the Pike, especially when I got to the county in 08, God, you guys really helped me kind of figure out how to establish relationships, how to kind of read between the lines of very specific zoning language, but really the relationship building and translating and kind of building consensus. So I'm always going to have a sense of gratitude to the AWG and the Pike Presidents Group and everybody in between that I think early on really helped develop a lot of the skills that I'm still working on. It's a work in progress, but I don't think I'd be ready for this next challenge without, I think, all the different conflicts and projects that have come along. So I'm always going to be monitoring this corridor. I don't think you can be involved as long as I have and just kind of walk away completely. So I'll keep an eye on you guys.
Go ahead, Linda.
Matt, you have done nothing short of a superb job, period. It's really hard to overstate what you've done. This is just, Columbia Pike has been a fantastic challenge for all of us who've been part of the Pike for, in my case, 50 years. And it's just incredible how much work has gone into this. And you have really, really shown how to do a superb job of balancing what seem to be disparate challenges and focuses of various interests that people have as residents and visitors and people who attend school and shop and play and everything else. So certainly wish you the best. And this is a loss for us in Arlington. But God bless you. You have really, really, really come through. Thank you.
I am going to significantly miss your eye on detail and keeping everybody honest. It's, I mean, you proved it again tonight.
There you go. Go out in glory.
Go ahead, Ed.
Yes, Matt, I want to say thank you for all of the many years of service that you have given to Arlington County and especially to Columbia Pike. And I remember meeting you before you had all this gray hair. And but one thing I will say that has been very, very favorable is regardless of the questions that I'm asking, whether they're intellectual questions or just how I don't know what's going on, you always take time to give a thoughtful answer. And I think that's a very special gift that you have and along with everybody else that you interact with, you always treat all questions with equal respect. And because when we were the public, we sometimes come up with some goofy questions, but you always take time to answer us in a thoughtful way. And I think that's an admirable quality. And I thank you very much. And I wish you all the best on your next job. I guess it's going to be in Falls Church. I hadn't heard that. Sorry, I was late getting on the meeting tonight. I had internet problems, but thank you again.
I'd like to jump in just real from the applicant side too. I can't leave without talking about what a joy it's been to work with Matt. And I know Kathy, she can be here tonight, but I think she would echo everything that you all have said. And like you said, you're so technically proficient and really talented at the planning aspect, but you've been as much an ombudsman and a liaison at times than a principal planner. And so I think we've all really appreciated your work and in bridging the gap right between county and applicant. So we've really appreciated working with you through all these years, and you will be missed, especially your sense of humor. So thank you.
We need it. It's the only way to get through all this.
When you're in the trenches.
Now, and this group in particular, you guys have been very open and I think enabling of productive conversations, which I don't think is a consistent element we see in all of our conversations, particularly now where I think there's much more anxiety, misinformation, sometimes even anger in the dialogues that we have, and people kind of show up with already preconceived ideas of what the right answer is. And I think this group has consistently, at least in my opinion, been very open to having a conversation that gets us to the right answer. And I think it works both ways, because I think the collaboration and the open spirit on your side really allows staff to be more productive and kind of get to a better outcome. And I think we really need that to get to the best finish line out there. So I know I really benefited from that. Yeah, this is really, I feel like I walked into a setup because I wasn't ready for this, and I really struggle with praise.
Should have had a cake and, party. We could have ambushed you in person.
Yeah, it could have been worse. You're right. Yeah.
This is the downside to living in Arlington and having these folks we get to work with is, so many of them are highly desired, by other employers, jurisdictions, you name it. We're sort of an embarrassment of riches here, and I think, Matt, you're definitely, a pretty high example of that. So Olivia, don't get any ideas. So excellent. Well, really appreciate it, and I know we'll be seeing you around. You're not too far, so really appreciate all your service, Matt. Otherwise, I'm gonna wrap this thing up early before 8 o'clock. Everybody can get out of here and enjoy the rest of their evening. So thank you so much again, everybody. I believe no meeting in July, likely, Olivia, sounds like. So we will be reconvening probably as the earliest September, maybe.
Yeah.
So we will see everybody then. So everybody have a great summer and take care. Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.